Chosen one. Have you noticed it? The wave that rises in you suddenly. Not just desire, but something darker. Something that almost feels designed. A sexual temptation so sharp, so specific, that it doesn't feel like random attraction. It feels like a test. Because it is. This isn't ordinary lust. This is the oldest trap in existence, wrapped in pleasure, laced with spiritual poison, and aimed directly at those who were marked long before they ever knew what it meant to carry divine fire. You, chosen one, were sealed with a sacred symbol, the letter M and the crescent moon, not for vanity, not for mysticism, but for war, for purpose, for prophecy. You are not like the others, and that's exactly why this temptation hunts you. The world doesn't understand that this urge you battle in silence isn't just biological. It's spiritual warfare disguised as desire. It whispers in your solitude. It knocks when your soul is ascending. It offers you escape when you're closest to breakthrough. And it doesn't come to flirt. It comes to distract, to delay, to drain the energy heaven hid inside you. So hear me when I say this. If the sexual temptation has grown stronger, more specific, more relentless, it's not because you're weak. It's because your light is beginning to burn through the veil, and the enemy knows, if a chosen one marked by the M and the crescent moon masters their desire, they become unstoppable. This is not just another battle. This is the test. Now tell me in the comments, have you ever felt like your temptations were sent, not just random, but targeted, as if someone or something knew exactly how to shake your spirit? Speak truth. Your comment may be confirmation for another chosen one waking up tonight. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by a desire so intense it made you question your very nature? Chosen one, if you're marked, if the sacred symbols of the M and the crescent moon are etched into your spirit, then understand this. What you feel is not weakness. It's war. What burns in your body, that sudden sexual pull that rises in silence, in isolation, in your darkest hour, it isn't random. It's been designed, calibrated, deployed against you. The world has taught you to believe it's natural, that it's just biology, hormones, stress. But what if I told you that the temptation you battle is not merely flesh but frequency? A coded system built to hijack the most sacred power you carry, your sexual energy. Because your desire was never meant to be wasted. It was meant to be directed. Chosen one, they don't fear your body, they fear what lives inside it. The system has known since you were born. There's something divine about you. You are not here to follow the herd. You are not here to be entertained into spiritual sleep. You are here to awaken, and your awakening starts at the threshold of your most vulnerable urge. They knew they couldn't kill your light, so they chose to distract it, to seduce it, to make you think your urges are your truth. But they are not. You are not what you crave. You are what you command. And now is the time to remember that command. This temptation that calls you in the stillness of night, it is a test, a spiritual exam with consequences that ripple across dimensions. You think you're alone in that battle? You're not. Those marked, those sealed by God with the M and the crescent moon, feel the intensity sharper than most, because your vessel was made to channel creation, and if your sexual energy stays unrefined, it will create chaos instead of light. That's the enemy's goal, not to destroy you, but to delay you. Every scroll, every image, every sudden craving isn't random, it's programmed. A subtle spiritual algorithm made to fracture your alignment before it fully activates. But if you're watching this now, it means the test hasn't broken you. It means something deeper inside of you still remembers what you came here for, remembers that your power was never meant to be spilled across screens or buried in fantasies. It was meant to rise, to heal, to build. You've been lied to. It's seduced into thinking that pleasure equals freedom. But the chosen know better. The chosen feel the lie burning in their gut. Because when you fall to the illusion, something inside you dims. You feel it. The disconnection, the silence from God that follows. That ache isn't guilt, it's grief. Your soul mourning the leak of your sacred essence. There's something they never told you about temptation, especially sexual temptation. It doesn't come for the weak. It comes for the powerful. It circles the ones who are marked, those carrying divine codes in their very DNA. If you felt it stronger than others, it's not because you're broken. It's because you're being forged. You were born with a light that disrupts frequencies, a presence that shifts atmospheres. And your sexual energy? That is the gateway. That is the pulse of divine creation flowing through your spine, waiting to be refined, not released. But the world has flipped the script. It taught you that desire must be obeyed, that if it burns, you must feed it. And that lie, it's cost you, not just energy, not just time, it's cost you clarity, peace, alignment, because every time you bow to the impulse, a layer of your higher self goes dormant. Your vision gets clouded, the voice of your spirit is muffled. But you already feel this, don't you? After the craving fades, something always feels missing. That's not just your imagination. That's the cost of misaligned fire. And here's the divine truth. You were never meant to extinguish that fire. You were meant to purify it, to hold it, to master it. Because when that energy stays inside, unspilled, unbroken, it becomes power, vision, magnetic presence. And that is what the enemy fears. Not your words, not your body, but the calm, disciplined man or woman who has turned craving into clarity. If this is striking something deep inside you, if you've been feeling the burn but also the call, comment below. I'm reclaiming my energy. I was born to master the fire. Let that be your echo in the spirit. Let the test become your training. You must understand, this temptation isn't just a test of your body, it's a mirror for your soul. It reveals the cracks in your foundation. It whispers where your spirit is still leaking energy. And if you listen closely, you'll realize it always comes when you're closest to breakthrough. Right before you rise, something always tries to pull you back. The urge becomes louder, the cravings become sharper, the distractions more seductive. But this is not random. It's strategy. It's ancient. Because every spiritual bloodline has guardians, but also watchers. Forces that monitor the marked, waiting for a moment of weakness to intercept destiny. And you, chosen one, are one of the marked. Maybe you've never understood why your struggle with lust runs deeper than others. Why it comes in waves that feel cosmic, not just carnal. Why certain images haunt you, certain dreams linger, certain thoughts enter even when you're praying. That's because the test is tailored to the soul, and yours is rare. You weren't just born with potential. You were born with a spiritual blueprint that, once activated, threatens the system built on distraction and desire. So this test? It's sacred. It's a fire meant to refine your crown. Not to shame you, but to awaken you. Not to destroy you, but to discipline you. And every time you pause instead of pounce, every time you breathe instead of break, you are engraving a new pattern into your being, a new frequency into your future. The more you resist, the more you reclaim. This is spiritual alchemy, not to kill the desire, but to transmute it into divine presence, into magnetism, into a frequency that no longer chases, but commands. But let's go deeper now, because this test is not only about what you resist, but about what you remember. You see, the chosen ones marked with the M and the crescent moon, you didn't come here to live in suppression. You came to unlock the sacred memory buried in your bones. Before you were tempted, you were crowned. Before you were tested, you were sealed. The enemy didn't start chasing you when you fell. It started chasing you when heaven assigned you. And that temptation, that war in your body, it's the echo of a much older conflict, the ancient one between your divine inheritance and the forces that fear you'll activate it. There's a reason why, when you try to focus, something sexual always interrupts. Why the dream shows up just when you decide to fast. Why the thought invades right after you pray. It's because that energy, your sexual energy, is not casual. It's sacred architecture, the raw material of creation, the sacred oil that, when refined, becomes wisdom. That's why the world built entire industries around hijacking it. Because if the chosen learn to master it, they unlock dimensions no institution can contain. You are not here to numb it. You are here to aim it, to let it rise like sacred steam, illuminating your inner temple, activating the ancient light within. And once that light comes on, you won't need to chase purpose anymore. Purpose will find you, not through noise, but through alignment, not through effort, but through embodiment. There is a moment in the life of every chosen one when the temptation stops feeling externals and starts sounding like your own voice. That's when you know the test has become personal. The desire no longer knocks at the door. It waits in your bloodstream. It hides in your scrolls, your daydreams, your silence. And it speaks not in shouts, but in whispers. Just this, once. It's not that serious. You've been doing so well you deserve a release. But hear me clearly. Those whispers are not yours. They are echoes from the system that fears your ascension. Their goal is not to destroy you all.
At once is to slow you down, one compromise at a time, one leak at a time.
Until your power becomes memory and your mission becomes delay. This is why awareness is your first weapon. The moment you become aware that your urges are not your enemy, but your untrained army, everything changes. Because you stop fighting yourself and begin leading yourself. You stop trying to bury your fire and start shaping it into light. You stop asking, why am I like this? And start declaring, this is the fuel for my calling. And that shift from shame to strategy is what separates the asleep from the awakened. When you finally realize that sexual temptation is not random but perfectly timed, surgically placed, and spiritually coded to target your weakest moment, that's when you stop underestimating your resistance and start understanding your refinement. Not every storm is sent to break you. Some are allowed to reveal you. And this one, this silent war within, is proof that you are not ordinary. You are marked. Chosen one. Do you notice how your body reacts before your mind even forms a thought? How certain images, sounds, even memories trigger waves of desire so sudden they feel almost foreign. That's because not all temptation is born from within you. Some of it is sent, some of it is planted. The moment you were marked with the crescent moon and the M, the system took note. And from that moment on, the attacks became tailored. Not random, not chaotic, precise. Because when your soul carries divine technology, ancient codes hidden in your DNA, the opposition doesn't waste energy. It studies you, tracks your rhythms, waits until your guard is low, and then strikes, not with force, but with seduction. The enemy no longer fights you with obvious darkness. It uses your light against you. It cloaks temptation in beauty, in charisma, in things that look like blessings, but are really distractions. The energy that was meant to build empires starts leaking through fantasies. The vision that was meant to awaken generations gets clouded by desire. And little by little, without realizing it, you begin to feel disconnected. Not because you've lost your calling, but because you've stopped guarding the portals. This is why the chosen feel deeper temptation than others, because your fire burns brighter, your soul remembers what you're here to do. And even when the flesh wavers, the spirit mourns. It aches not just from falling, but from forgetting. Because you knew. Long before this life, you knew. And every act of indulgence that dims your light isn't just a mistake. It's a delay in the divine timeline. A postponement of a legacy written in the stars. The reason you feel so much shame after giving in isn't because you're dirty. It's because you're divine. Your soul wasn't made to be given away in fragments. Your energy wasn't meant to be scattered in empty rooms, on hollow screens, or to people who cannot hold your frequency. That pain you feel after temptation, that aching silence after the pleasure fades, it's not condemnation. It's your higher self grieving the leak of sacred power. It's the vibration of your future mourning, the delay of your destiny. But here's the hidden grace. Shame only lingers where purpose exists. If you had no mission, no mark, no mantle, the system wouldn't care what you touched or who touched you. But because you're chosen, because your essence was encoded to ignite transformation, Even your desire is divine fuel, waiting to be redirected. Every craving is information, every urge is data, not an enemy, a message. It's your spirit, crying out to be remembered, trying to break free from the mask of lust and be baptized in light. You were not called to repress your desire. You were called to reclaim it. Not to deny your fire, but to command it. To look temptation in the face and say, "You no longer rule me. I see you. I decode you. I transcend you." And chosen one, if these words are striking a chord inside you, if you felt that grief, that ache, that strange knowing that something sacred is calling you out of the shallow into the eternal, then I invite you to comment below. I'm not ashamed of my fire. I'm here to reclaim it. Let your voice echo through the spiritual realm. Let your declaration mark your shift. Chosen one, there comes a pivotal and sacred shift in your journey when you realize that the sexual energy that once agitated you, that whispered temptations in the silence, was never your enemy. It was your raw material, your ignition, your divine force. The very energy the world tried to weaponize against you was always meant to be your crown. Not something to suppress, but something to transmute, to refine. This is not about repression, it's about transformation, about taking that primal, fiery force and turning it into a calm, unshakable presence. The kind of presence that shifts a room before you speak, that grounds others just by being. Have you noticed? You no longer need to act to be felt. You no longer need to prove to be seen. Your energy, once scattered and urgent, now moves like quiet thunder. And that thunder doesn't chase, it draws. It doesn't shout, it radiates. The same fire that once pulled you into lower urges is now the fuel of your spiritual authority. The power that flows through you is sacred because you chose to rise instead of fall, to channel instead of collapse, to lead instead of chase. This is the birth of mastery, not through struggle but through stillness. There is something sacred, chosen one, about what now emanates from you without effort. Women feel it before they understand it. They are not responding to your looks, your voice, or your actions. They are responding to your frequency, to the way your energy holds itself, to the divine purity you've cultivated in silence. The world is drenched in noise, in seduction, in false light. But you've become the contrast. You walk in purity in a world addicted to performance. You carry discipline where others carry hunger. And that makes you irresistible, not in the carnal sense, but in the sacred, in the soul-deep way that can't be explained. You don't need to pursue because your frequency is already calling. You don't have to speak because your presence is already announcing, and that quiet magnetism is terrifying to the system that built its empire on distraction and craving. But it is deeply attractive to those who are ready to remember who they are, especially the feminine. Because when a woman feels the energy of a man who is not ruled by lust, but instead governed by sacred alignment, something ancient awakens within her too. Not fear, not defense, but peace. And that peace is what draws her into your orbit, not because you took anything, but because you gave nothing away. You were never called to master others, chosen one. You were called to master yourself. And no battlefield demands more inner dominion than the war of desire. The sexual temptation you feel isn't just flesh seeking release, it's fire looking for a throne. Most will let that fire consume them, but you are here to become the one who learns to carry it, not to extinguish it, but to refine it, to elevate it, to convert the chaos into creation, the craving into clarity. This is why you feel the resistance so intensely, because you are not meant to walk this earth as a man who reacts, but as a vessel who channels divine energy with intention. Every time you choose stillness over seduction, you are not killing a part of yourself. You are remembering the part of you that never needed to beg for pleasure to feel whole. That wholeness has always been your birthright, but the world tried to shame it out of you, replacing presence with performance. But now your light burns too brightly to be hidden. The flame that once scattered itself outward now radiates inward, steady, contained, and sovereign. And the more you hold that fire, the more the world will bend around your vibration, not the other way around. For the chosen ones marked with the M and the crescent moon, Celibacy is not just a decision, it's a declaration. A holy rebellion against a system that thrives on your leakage. Every time you withhold, you rewire. Every time you turn inward, instead of indulging outwardly, you rebuild a temple they tried to collapse. Your semen is not just fluid, it is a scroll. It carries codes of memory, of divine potential, of genetic prophecy. And when spilled mindlessly, those codes fall into the wrong dimensions. But when protected, when sealed within your being with
sacred awareness, they rise up, activating your spine like a ladder of light, opening the pineal gate, awakening gifts that were asleep for lifetimes.
This is why the enemy sends temptation dressed as beauty, urgency, fantasy. Because if you ever fully remembered who you are when you withhold with purpose, you'd walk as a god among mortals. You'd command the room not with voice, but with vibration. And the dark systems that profit off your numbness, they'd lose control of the matrix they built around your body. That's why celibacy, for the marked, is spiritual warfare in its purest form. You're not just resisting lust. You are cultivating light. There comes a moment in the chosen one's path, especially for those marked with the M and the crescent moon, when desire itself becomes the very threshold of awakening, not because it disappears, but because it transforms. The same fire that once pulled you into shadows now begins to illuminate your sacred path. You no longer see sexual urges as enemies, but as unrefined messengers, raw signals from your soul that something powerful is trying to rise. When you transmute that desire, instead of obeying it, you turn lust into sight. You stop seeking external stimulation, and your inner vision sharpens. You dream with more clarity. You speak with divine weight. You look into someone's eyes and see their soul, their pain, their mission. And that kind of clarity is what terrifies the enemy, because the system thrives on blindness. But once you see clearly, you can't be manipulated. You can't be seduced. You've become sovereign. That's when you become a threat, not because of the words you speak, but because of the light you carry in silence. Chosen one, understand this. The very intensity of your temptation was never a curse. It was a key, a divine test reserved only for those marked with the M and the crescent moon. Not everyone faces this level of warfare because not everyone carries what you carry. You were born with a sacred code woven into your spirit, and this world has tried everything to make you forget it. But you didn't forget, you couldn't, because it was written into your bloodline, into your soul. Every time you resisted that pull, even when no one saw, even when it felt impossible, you were reclaiming fragments of your destiny. You weren't just saying no to lust, you were saying yes to leadership. You were saying yes to clarity. Yes to becoming the one who doesn't need to chase pleasure. Because you've become the one who embodies purpose. You don't rise by pretending to be perfect. You rise by remembering your power. And now that power is active. The fire is awake. The distractions are being burned away. The version of you who was ruled by urges is dissolving. And what remains is royal, sacred, free. If this message stirred something ancient inside of you, comment below and declare, I am mastering my fire. I am chosen. Let your own words seal your alignment. And if your spirit is ready to walk even deeper into this awakening, subscribe now. Because this isn't just content, it's a divine calling, and your time is now.